Hey everyone, I'm Anil, and we've built Convo for you. Convo plugs into LangGraph as a drop-in checkpointer and gives you a powerful dashboard to monitor, inspect, and control all the parts of the conversation. With just one import, Convo can automatically track and persist all messages and other channel values between user and agents and between inter-agent communication and reasoning steps as well. It basically replaces the default checkpointer and persists everything to the cloud so you don't have to worry about infra. Let me show you a quick demo on how we can build these apps using Convo. I'm going to start by importing a bunch of libraries that includes Convo and a bunch of the LangGraph libraries. I'm using .env to load in my configuration. Let's start by setting up the Convo object. I'm initializing it using an API key. I am invoking the checkpointer object right here and generating a new thread ID as well. Convo can generate unique thread IDs for you so you can keep track of the various sessions. I'm just going to log this and we'll come back to it later. I'm going to use OpenAI to set up my LLM in this graph. I'm using Tably for web search tools. Let's start by setting up a tool node. This is the node in the graph that will do web search and generate answers for us. Setting up the call model. This is my primary agent. This is what receives all the requests coming in from the user. Setting up a conditional function to switch between moving to the tool or ending the graph flow. Message annotation here is just a simple reducer. I'm just keeping track of all messages coming in instead of updating and replacing them. We start by setting up a graph state. The only variable we are tracking is messages, and in a real world example, you could track all sorts of variables over here to power the graph. Setting up the entire workflow here. We start by adding a couple of nodes. We have added an agent node and we've added a tool node. The workflow starts by moving to the agent node, and the agent node can conditionally decide whether to call the tool or to end the workflow. In case it decides to call the tool will execute and move back to the agent. That's how we've set this up. Right. So when we invoke the workflow by compiling it, we pass the checkpointer, and this checkpointer is what wires everything up and magically process everything to the cloud. So you don't have to add any new functions to save messages. It's all handled through the checkpointer. So the way we're going to conduct this demo is we're going to run two queries. We're going to run an initial query where we ask how many films has Tom Cruise acted in, and we get an answer. Then we're going to run a follow-up query, one where we say how many awards has he won. And over here we are referring to Tom Cruise again, but we are not mentioning his name. And we're going to comment this out. So if we run our first query and we go ahead and run the second query, had the thread not been persisted, it would have failed because it wouldn't recognize who we are referring to when we say how many awards has he won. But because in our case, checkpointer is going to take care of who Tom Cruise is from the previous query, it should just work seamlessly. I'm going to save the file and go ahead and run it. Let's just give it a second. It's firing off the initial query. That's the thread ID it's created for us. So we can see how many films has Tom Cruise acted in. It goes and calls the tool node, generates a bunch of data, and it's going to give us an answer in the end. So it says Tom Cruise has acted in over 55 films. So it generated that answer for us. What we're going to do now is you're going to comment out the initial query, and we want to run our follow-up query. The one change I'm going to make is instead of generating a new thread ID, I'm just going to refer to the old thread ID, the one we copied from the previous run. So if we go ahead and run the follow-up query now, even though we've commented out the previous one where we talk about how many films has Tom Cruise acted in, it still has reference to who we're talking about and what the previous messages were because it's all saved through checkpointer. So if I go ahead and run the follow-up query, just a quick check, we've commented out the initial query. It even tells us it's running the follow-up query, but as part of the body of the response, we can see the previous question as well because everything got persisted. And as a result, Even though we don't mention who we are talking about, we're able to get relevant answers here. So we simply ask how many awards has he won, and it makes a bunch of web search, and then it generates a response for us where it mentions Tom Cruise has won several awards, including three Golden Globe awards, blah blah blah. So we were able to persist our transactions, our messages, and generate responses. And that's how you would build real life applications using LangGraph and checkpointers using Convo. Thanks.